Profiles in Cinemania, James Earl Jones. If you head about 9 or so miles west of the small town of Coldwater in Mississippi, you'll come to a place called Arkabutler, named after the nearby lake. It's officially designated by the U.S. Census as just a place, meaning that it is a defined area people live in, but it never rose to the prominence of becoming an actual settlement. These so-called unincorporated communities speckle the land around the Mississippi River, where people just set up and tried to eke out a life from the land as settlers moved across the country, and in many cases these places remain today. Life was pretty tough in Arkabutler in 1931 when James Earl Jones was born here. His mother was a teacher and his father took on a lot of jobs over the years, working as a sharecropper and even a boxer, eventually deciding to embark on a career on the stage. This dream apparently took the best part of Robert Jones's attention because when young James Earl was born, his father left to pursue it with some success here and there. He may never have gotten all of his dreams, but he got close enough. Sadly, the loss of Robert left the Jones family in a parlous state, and James was nearly shipped off to live with a grandparent to ease the burdens. The shock of it all affected him so much that he developed a severe stammer and barely spoke at all until high school. A teacher there noted that James had a talent for poetry and encouraged him to read aloud to the class. Something about the discipline of memorizing lines and performing them seemed to cut through the speech problems. He finally found his voice. And what a voice it was! After a spell in the army, when he could have made a fine career as an officer if he wanted, James decided to follow his father's lead and head for the stage. He found success in the 60s and 70s in daring and bold plays that emphasized social commentary, especially regarding the place of the black man in American life and the racial tensions brought about simply by being black in a society that didn't want that. After winning a Tony Award for his performance in The Great White Hope in 1968, he starred in a film adaptation in 1970 and got an Oscar nomination, being only the second black man to be nominated after Sidney Poitier. He wasn't just limited to serious, weighty drama, though. In 1969, he helped out a fledgling program that was trying out some new material for kids. He took part in the early days of Sesame Street and was a big hit. Kids just responded to that powerful voice and gravitas, even when he was doing nothing more than counting to 10. James Earl Jones always considered himself a working actor first and foremost. He would take any job that seemed acceptable and do it to the best of his ability. So when he was brought on to provide the voice of Darth Vader in 1977, he saw it as just another role and was initially reluctant to even be credited, since he thought it was just providing a kind of special effect in the background. Once it became clear that he was now an instant icon in the biggest film of all time, he wisely changed his mind there. Darth Vader was the first time he played a potent father figure, but it would hardly be the last. In 1982, he was brilliant as Thulsa Doom, the enigmatic Snake Lord, in Conan the Barbarian, opposite a newcomer to the scene, Arnold Schwarzenegger. After a rampage of violence and destruction across the ancient land of Cimmeria, he famously tells the revenge-seeking Conan, "Wasn't I more a father to you than anyone?" When the ascending star of Eddie Murphy needed a father figure for Coming to America to represent a patriarch of a powerful African nation, there was naturally no other choice. Once again, James Earl Jones found his place naturally in a movie that was remarkable in its time for the amount of black people in the cast. It simply would not have been proper without him. When the wayward lion prince Simba tries to shirk his responsibility for a life of carefree freedom, it was of course the booming, godlike voice of James Earl Jones that echoed down from the heavens to remind the young prince, "Remember who you are." Once again, James was not just a father figure, but a platonic ideal of the power and authority that fathers inherit in our lives, embodying a force that lives in us all whether we like it or not. Back in the 1950s, James Earl Jones was on his way to becoming a first lieutenant in the Army, with a Ranger qualification and a strict but prosperous career ahead of him. It was to be a turning point, because he did find some reconciliation with his father. Although the two never became entirely close, James did later recall the conversations he had with his father, who was still pursuing that dream of getting to the stage. His father told him that acting wouldn't pay much, may never be enough to live on, and so if he wanted to do it, he should only do it if he loved it. If you love a dream that much, it can move you to do a lot of things. Perhaps we would be remembering General Jones of the army by now if his father hadn't shared that advice. Fathers have power over us. They move us and inspire us, whether in their presence or their absence. To generations of filmgoers, James Earl Jones was a kind of father, an inspirational, sometimes terrifying, powerful figure. One that we might never meet in person, but who is nevertheless present in our lives despite that absence. James Earl Jones died in his home on September the 9th, aged 93. It is to be hoped that all of us can live up to his expectations. Profiles in Cinemania is a production of the Cinemania Society, LLC. This episode was written by Andy Slack, music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio.